So many things have been happening to me lately to where it's like even when we encounter these blemishes, um, or the accidents,
Mhm.
we're still blessed. We're
Mhm.
still blessed. Even when we suffer, we're still blessed because it could be so much worse.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes us enduring these blemishes to realize that we were blessed, you know. Um,
It'll remind you to keep your head up, literally.
right.
Ain't no call like a beauty call.
Welcome, everybody, to Beauty Calls. This is Dr. Zanis. I'm a board certified plastic surgeon here in New Bern, North Carolina, and this is our first ever episode of the Beauty Calls podcast. The purpose of this endeavor is to explore what is beauty. Of course, I concentrate on the outward appearance and trying to help people look and feel better about themselves, but beauty, of course, involves many different things, anything from art, literature, music, health and wellness. And so we're going to explore all these topics and hopefully talk with experts in those fields throughout the course of this series. And today, our first guest ever to the podcast, his name is Joe Brown, aka the Soul Man, and he is a native to New Bern, North Carolina. We're very lucky to have him. He's a very talented musician. He plays, he sings, and he's well known around this community. And in fact, I had the honor of um, seeing Joe perform at our first ever health and wellness fair last year, the inaugural event that we maybe can talk about a little bit later, happened here last November. So, Joe Brown, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate the time you're giving us from your busy schedule.
Well, no, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's really nice to be here and work with you guys. Any opportunity I get, I'm going to take.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know you so well, but um, just chatting a little bit before this started, we were talking about you were born and raised right here in New Bern. Tell me a little bit more about how you got to this point in your career. How did you end up in music? Have you always been involved in music, or how did all that take place?
I'm born and raised here. I'm 36 years old. Born in 1987. I come from a musical family.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a self-taught musician and singer. And my mother, she was musically inclined as well. And they both come from musical backgrounds. So it was just only right for him to pass that down to us. I have four older brothers. I'm the youngest of five.
Oh wow.
Uh, and an older sister, Portia. So I'm the youngest of six. Uh, but we grew up in church. He taught us all how to play the piano and sing and taught us harmony.
Nice.
And so just growing up through uh, middle school, high school, and even into college, I always kind of stayed in the church setting, which kept me musically active.
Mm-hmm.
And so after graduating, I came back to New Bern to help my father out with church. And,
Is he a pastor?
yes, he's
Okay.
a pastor of Howard's and Hedges Revival Center. It's
Nice.
the large brick church in Sunnyside community, not far from Mayola.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so stayed active with music, came back to New Bern, uh, got an opportunity to play in one of the local bars. A friend of mine, John Morgan, was managing a bar here, the Mesh. And so Wednesday nights they had open mic night. And so he found out that I could play the piano. So he said, "Why don't you bring your piano out here and, to see what happens?" And so I did. And, it was well received. So he asked me back the next week. And I think the next week I came, I brought my keyboard and I brought my brother on the drum and a guitar player from the church.
Uh-huh.
And they really liked that. So he invited me back the next week. And at that time, I brought a bass player that was a friend of the guitar player. And so that was kind of how the band formed, very organically. And
Right.
it wasn't an intention of mine. It was just something that we kind of stumbled upon, and then we realized that we could really make something out of it. And so that's how it kind of progressed to where we are now.
So are you primarily a band, or are you solo performer also?
Yeah, I do
Some of both.
solo. Actually, this morning I just sent off a contract performing solo for a wedding. So yeah, I do it solo is where I kind of started,
Yeah.
and the band is just kind of like icing on the cake. If you really want the big shebang, then we bring out the musicians, the horn section. They even got some background singers now, so it's a full operation.
Nice. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about your music. I'm interested to find out about, if you write your own music, if you're creating songs as a group, or where you see yourself going in the future. But some tough questions that maybe in the back of your mind you can ruminate on, that we're going to get
Sure.
to a little bit later in this discussion. Really, because it's hard to answer what is beauty. That's a philosophical question, right?
Yes.
We all know it because we see it, we feel it, but it's hard to explain. And I want to ask you that question, but from a musical standpoint as well, like, what makes a song beautiful? Why do we like certain pieces of music, or melodies? And I think that's a really hard thing to say. I know there's a mathematical component to music, and inherently certain chords and things work with math, and they're just made to sound right. But why is that? And so that might be something that we can talk about and could be interesting, because that's what I'm really trying to figure out is, why the heck do some things sound good? Is it from God? Is it in our DNA? Is it just something that's random? And is there such thing as a bad song or a bad music? I think so, but why is that? How is it in like physical beauty, the eye of the beholder? Or is it just universal that some sounds just cause everybody to cringe? You know what I mean?
Right.
But before we get to that, tell me more. Where you think you're headed? Like, what's your goal in your career and life? Like, do you have any plans to change what you're doing right now?
No, no plans to change what I'm doing. I'm very excited. I'm very happy. I'm very fulfilled. Um, I'm still hungry, very hungry. There's a lot more that I'd like to do and see. Um, but no, this is uh, fortunately where I feel I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
There are a lot of different fields that I've kind of brushed against. I got my degree uh, as a teacher, so I did substitute teaching, and
Mhm.
for a while. I was this close to becoming a law enforcement officer. Took basic law enforcement training, passed it, passed the state exam.
Mhm.
So, and everything that I've kind of encountered, I feel like I would do very well in. The thing is, I would be starting from scratch,
Right.
and so music is a gift and something that I've had since birth. And so fortunately, I've been around people who have helped me to uh, hone it and polish it into uh, such uh, a product that would demand hiring.
Mhm.
I can
Sure.
make a nice living off of it. And so to answer your question, right now, we're a cover band, but I don't really think that one can consider them a band unless they produce their own music, like you said. So yes, to answer your question, we do have our own music. I've written songs, and we're steady learning them
Mhm.
and putting music to them and presenting them to the public. And pretty soon we'll have it on wax, so to speak, and you'll be able to go to Spotify or any of your
Oh, nice.
favorite.
Have you performed some of those at your
Oh yeah,
shows?
yeah. And it's very humbling. You see clips of people who get on a big stage and they have the crowds of thousands reciting the lyrics, and you think like, wow, that has to be such an amazing feeling to have that many people recognize something that you've contributed to the world.
Mhm.
And so after shows, sometimes people will come up and say, man, I thought you were gonna do Maureen or one of our other Buns, one of our other original songs. And so it's like, people are really paying attention.
Yeah.
And so it's like it makes you feel good, but then it also creates a sense of urgency that, we've really got to stick to this and put it out there because obviously there's a demand and
Yeah.
a need for it.
They're hungry for your original work. So
Absolutely.
I think that'd be an awesome feeling.
Absolutely.
What kind of music is it that you create? I know what some of your cover stuff is like, but what would you say is your genre?
I, it's crazy, I'm the soul man. And so we touch various genres, country, jazz, uh, funk, just you name it, we've played it, but all kind of revolves around soul.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to my original work, it's hard to put it into one category because I have something like Reach for Me, which is more like a country song.
Mhm.
I have Buns Buns, which is more like has a Latin feel,
Mhm.
Um, Real Dreams is more of like R&B. Uh, then he's got the whole world in his hands. That's more of like a contemporary Christian song. So
Mhm.
it's very eclectic, and it just depends on what mood strikes me and what is the inspiration behind the music that I'm writing.
Gotcha. Well, I'd be excited to hear some of that. And when it comes out, you said it would be on Spotify or something like
Oh
that?
yeah, when you can hear us now, we're on any of your favorite digital service platforms, Apple Music, Spotify. Spotify is my favorite, so that's why I always go to Spotify first. But wherever you find your music, you can hear us. We did the Independence Day celebration for the town of Garner, and we were able to get that recorded, and so we've
Oh, wow.
got volume one of that already uploaded, and so you can go and hear the whole band.
I've lost touch with the music industry since it was, albums. I don't mean vinyl, but just CDs,
Mm.
albums. When you get a deal, it's a record deal,
Right.
and that's all different now and it's all digital. But is there still an importance in like signing a contract with a company that can produce your music and put it out on uh, a platform, or is it more and more artists are just kind of doing it on their own and it doesn't matter?
It depends on individual situation. If a label approaches me and says something about we like what you're doing, we want to get behind you, invest in you, it's all up to me whether I think that's going to be more beneficial for what it is that I'm trying to accomplish and achieve. For somebody else, it may not be as beneficial because they might already have a following such that they have created leverage for themselves.
Hmm.
And with technology such as it is today, with the internet and everything right at your fingertips, it does kind of, I won't say eliminates the need for the labels and people of that position, but it does change the game in that you don't have to solely depend
Yeah,
on.
you have more power as a creator, and just like on YouTube,
Absolutely.
like this podcast is going to be on YouTube. Um, there's so many celebrities now, people who are very heavily followed, influencers, but not just social influencers, but people who are experts in their field who are directly talking to the viewer, to the
Right.
consumer, without ever being involved in any type of a, you know, traditional production company. And so
Right.
I think music's going to head there. I don't know if it is now or not, but I was wondering about what's the importance of a label these days. But cool. So when you haven't had any formal training in music, like like at a school or a music
Strangely enough,
structured program.
no, what I consider that classical training.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, my dad enrolled me into piano lessons to kind of, get the fundamentals and, the, it's like, you have to know addition and subtraction to have a better chance at succeeding in multiplication. You have to kind of have a handle on multiplication to get a better understanding of division.
Hmm.
And then, such as it progresses, is the way music is. You have to, it's not
Building blocks.
absolute. Right, it's building blocks, exactly what you said. There are certain steps that you have to take to have a better chance at success. I didn't take that route.
Mhm.
As I said, my father was self-taught, so what he taught us is what he taught himself. And so it's just a simple formula. Um, and so you get familiar enough with it, and then you encounter other musicians who have, they can talk the language. Oh, that's a diminished ninth chord or a sus, all of that kind of is still Greek to me. But then you realize that what you're playing, it sounds good, it feels good, but it means something. Even though you don't know what it means in this world of music, is meaning behind what it is that we're doing. Even though I'm only doing it off of what I hear,
Um,
I'm only inspired by what I feel, that it has significance. You could take what I'm playing and put it on paper,
right.
and somebody who doesn't have the inspiration and they don't necessarily hear it, they can read it off of the sheet of paper and still produce the same music. So once you realize that, you know, he made an attempt for me to kind of go back and get some of that classical training, but I was immature and thought that I was further along than going back to get those kind of building blocks. So I've had a little bit of classical training, but most of what I have is just self-taught and then encountering musicians that are better than I am. And some of them are gracious enough to kind of show me different things and help me understand things that will unlock the theories that are in music.
So that you're talking about more of what's a natural talent
Right,
or a gift.
right.
Um, I play some music. I studied piano, trumpet, and guitar is my main instrument. And I never had the natural talent. Like I don't have the ear. I can't play anything by ear. I just have to practice and learn and memorize stuff. But I could always feel inside of me a struggle that I love doing it. But when I see someone who can just do what you're describing and or like Jimi Hendrix or somebody who could
Right.
pick up the guitar and with just playing with it could figure out what it means and how to do it instinctively.
Mhm.
I think that's a true talent. That's amazing. Um, and that's when you have like the opportunity, I think, to really develop a passion for your art form.
Mhm.
I like playing guitar, but I could never be super passionate about it because I know it's not one of my innate gifts. So you view it that way, like it's a gift that you've been given, or is it just something that everyone can get into and practice and learn, but there's only so far you can go unless it's one of your intrinsic talents. How do you feel about all that?
Again, I say it's kind of situational. It depends on the individual. I know, because the irony is a person who is gifted, such as myself, might fall into the trap, such as I did, of saying, "Well, I don't need that classical training.
Mhm.
I'm fine with what I have. It's working for me, so
Right.
I'm good to go." But the reality is that classical training is just as important as what I already thrive and do well with. You know what I'm saying? So
Integrating them both could make you even more powerful in in what you
absolutely,
do. Mhm.
absolutely. So there are some people who are musically inclined, but they don't progress as far because they don't have the work ethic. And then there are those who, maybe no one in their family has been inclined to take on a musical journey. But then they, for whatever reason, they get the inspiration, and so they just are diligent and diligent and diligent, and so they progress farther along. So I think it just depends on the individual. But naturally, if you have a gift, if you have some kind of genetic uh, history, if you will, of music, then you are probably projected to do
Yeah.
better. But nothing is absolute. It's just whoever puts in the work. They say 10,000 hours. Putting in 10,000 hours at whatever it is that you are involved with, that will give you that expert um,
Mhm.
chance. We'll say it like.
Mhm. You got to put in the work. That's right. Um, so let's get back to the beauty discussion. What do you think? Do you have an idea of what beauty is?
It's crazy because when I read that question, I was trying. Yeah, I'm one I'm pretty good with words. I don't think you can define beauty. Maybe obviously, if you look in the dictionary, I'm sure there will be a definition. But when you take it from its, and apply it to, like you said, the various fields of
Mhm.
music or whatever it is, be it surgery, whatever it is. I think then it depends on the individual. I think beauty is more of an impression. It's more of a perception or an interpretation.
Mhm.
So I don't think you can take beauty and just put it on a wall and then everybody that walks by will acknowledge that beauty. I think you just have to put something on the wall, and then the people that gain an impression from it, they will acknowledge, interpret, and observe the beauty in whatever it's not guaranteed for everybody. Like you
Sure.
like we agreed, and you say, is there such thing as bad music? Uh, one can say no. Is yes, I would say yes because it's not appealing to me, but that doesn't mean it's not appealing to somebody else. So I think it's all in the individual's ability to observe and receive, perceive, and interpret as to what beauty is.
Well, I agree. I think it's up to each viewer, right? Each individual, what is beautiful. And you were talking about an artwork on the wall. So if you put something on the wall, let's say you put up 5 pictures on a wall and people walk through and the first person hates all of them. They're not interested, but they have an impression made by one of them. For them, that's a beautiful picture and they don't like the others. Well, everybody who walks through that same row could potentially prefer a different one. And for
Mhm.
them, that's beautiful. But I think that there are sort of generalizations that for some reason why some paintings or artists become famous is because people tend to gravitate and say that's beautiful, or why some songs are like historic, and people love, and there's something that moves in them on average, and others are just they don't sound good to most people. So what do you think is causing that cluster where an impression is made by an artwork or a person's beauty? There's certain people that the world throughout time has said is like gorgeous. Is it something just in our DNA?
I can't say for sure, but I think it would have something to do with what is most relatable. Um, then I guess to kind of dumb it down, it turns into a numbers game when you think about um iconic songs or pieces of art or works of art or things of that nature. I think they are what they are because they resonate with more people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we all can relate to coming out and having a flat tire. I think we can all relate to losing our keys. That's a frustration that we all, numbers, probability speaking, will experience at some point. But we don't all know what it's like to care for a sick child who needs 24/7 attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different experience. So, a song that is geared to cater toward the experience of that flat tire, I think it will have a better chance at success because just more people can relate to that message. So that's what I think it boils down to is the effects
It's
that
more
certain
relatable.
works that have masses.
Gotcha.
But to take it a step farther, even you could put a work of art for the sake of this conversation on the wall, and we can agree that it's beautiful. But even in our agreement, we can find something different about it that appeals to us.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So just the fact that we agree that there's beauty there is just the first level. Now, what is it that is beautiful to you? For you, it could be one thing. For me, it could be another thing. You know what I mean? And that's just the different levels of
Or
it.
how about just a melody, no lyrics or anything, just a melody, and you hear it and you're like, oh, I like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Whereas something else is like, that sounds horrible. Like, how can a melody? It's just a combination of notes. It's not really speaking to a life experience or a subject matter. But when you hear it, it makes you feel a certain way inside. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Feeling,
Hmm.
which I think is a huge part of music, what it makes you feel. I can listen to some songs in the car, and I'm happy and I'm changing lanes, and like somebody can cut me off and I don't even care because
Yeah.
I'm in that mode. And there's other times I can be driving and listening to a song. I can't even see the road because it's touched a special part of my heart, or it's made me think of a special person or a memory, that is sad for me. And so I think feeling is a major part of art, um, and what we perceive as beautiful moves us. What moves us.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Well, you mentioned growing up in church. I don't know what your current spirituality is, and you were welcome to share that if you wanted to, but a lot of the things we're talking about, it can be in the realm of faith, spirituality, or it could be in the realm of science. And either way, someone can have a perspective on it.
right.
I'm a scientist, but I'm also a person of faith. And so for me, it's always about how can I blend my two belief systems into a reality. And so when I was just thinking about that melody question I asked you, I was wondering, I know a lot of beauty comes from God. That's my belief, and everybody else could be different. I think we're made um, in a way that God has impressed in ourselves what beauty really is on a fundamental level. What's the true beauty? And it comes from that source. But I'm still looking at it from a scientific level or from a evolutionary perspective. Like, what would be the advantage if you take a god or a creator out of it completely? Let's say for an atheist person, what would be the advantage of having evolved humans who feel really good when they hear a certain kind of song or a melody? I'm just talking about tunes.
Mhm.
Versus, like, how does that help us in our survival? You know what I mean? Like, definitely finding an attractive woman, there's a survival benefit because they're probably healthier. They can maybe create healthier offspring that you can, continue on your lineage. But music never really gets discussed in those kind of conversations about evolutionary benefit, or why would we even have music, as a species. Like, do other animal species have anything like music? I mean, birds make musical sounds, but is it actually music, or is it just,
That's interesting.
their way of communicating?
Yeah.
It might be the one thing that is hard to put into a scientific box and point more towards something deeper that I never thought about it like that before. But music could transcend,
Yeah.
all the other beauty fields in a really unique way. And they talk about angels, they sing,
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Well, the thought I had when you brought up that scenario is just what effect would having music, I, it's funny because, you know, there are people who blame music for a certain level of crime. Say
Mhm.
it like that. There's this belief that listening to music, whether it be, rap, whether it be the hardcore metal, that
Mhm.
kind of stuff, there's a belief that there's a correlation between that and crime, criminal acts, behavior. But I believe that without music, I think there would be a lot more crime. Just because of your mental state. When you talk about
Yeah.
mental health, it's like when you go into these workplaces, just about every last place you go has music playing because it just kind of helps the day go.
Absolutely.
After you sing a few songs, by the time you look, oh wow, is that I just think that it's like gardening.
Hmm.
It's therapeutic in its own way, to give us a certain level of peace of mind, and you know,
Well, we listen to music in the operating room. And
yeah,
so I always prefer music that just makes you feel good, makes you feel calm, makes you feel happy, and that I like. And so whenever one of the nurses puts on a song that just does not jive with me at all, I say, you better change that right now because I don't think this patient would appreciate
right,
me getting into a different frame of mind. And so it's my way of keeping the music how I like it in the
right,
operating room. But um, you bring up an interesting point about the genres like rap, heavy metal, things like that. I like songs and music from all sorts of genres, and including some metal songs and some rap songs and things
absolutely,
because they're cool. But and this is not making any kind of value judgment on the art,
right,
but there is a well known psychiatrist and kind of a health expert out there. His name is Daniel Amen, and he published a study, or he's talked about a study that um, looked at music and what people predominantly listen to. And the choice of music has not about crime or anything like that,
mhm,
but life expectancy, all things considered, based, and it's primarily on physical health. So they looked at all these, and for whatever reason, the people who listened mostly in their life to classical music lived the longest.
mhm.
I think followed by country was next. And the ones who lived the shortest, and the difference is like 7 years on average,
Wow,
was the least was heavy metal. And you could say, well, maybe it's lifestyle, or some people who are really into classical don't do as much, I don't know, crazy stuff as people, but it was actually not that. It was their brain health.
mm,
And so they're starting to really research, like, is certain types of music actually affect the health of your brain the same way certain types of physical activities or foods affect the health of other organs in your body. So there's a lot to explore there
absolutely,
in regards to music. But and people talk about playing classical music for little babies because it helps their brain develop, and it might be that might be part of it, or it could be because it's very mathematical type of music
mm,
versus more free form. I don't know. I have no
right,
idea. But you have kids?
yes,
Do they are they musical?
yes, they are.
Are you
They,
training them like your dad did?
I'm not into intensive training yet, but yeah, I've exposed my kids to the piano, and I've kind of taken my experiences and I'm trying to present it to them not as my dad presented it to me, but as I think it would be most beneficial to them.
Hmm.
So I'm giving them the letters, so actually what you're playing first. That way, once you are able to play, you'll still have a fundamental knowledge of what's going on with your hands, as opposed to just playing off of memory.
Yeah.
And
And are they enthusiastic about that, or is it kind of
yeah,
like resistant?
no, enthusiastic about it.
They're like,
Um, and so now my next part is just getting them to sing, because they'll sing all of the songs in all of the movies, but when I try to get them to sing a song for church or something like that, then it's a little hemming and hawing, but
uh-huh.
we get it out of them eventually. So that's the next step. But yeah, I think they're gonna um keep on in the family tradition with me.
They can join the band someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not on stage, they can be with the crew.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to ask in a minute about your show
Sure.
and about where people can find you. But is there any other topics you want to discuss or bring up, or anything that's important to you that people know about you?
Uh, no, I'm not right off the top of my it was just the joke when Scott was telling me about the show and what the intent was. He was talking, there's beauty in everything, so, we want to get you on because there's beauty in music. We want to get you
Mm-hmm.
a take on that. And so I explained to him, it's kind of healing now, but I played there was a 160th anniversary that James City just celebrated.
Oh yeah.
And I was able to go, and they invited me to come and play a few songs. But as I was setting up, I was walking to my truck and I had my head down and I ran into a street sign. And so I left a little skin in James City.
I see that.
I told him, I said, there's beauty in music, but there are also blemishes.
Well, we all have blemishes, and that's part of the beauty, right? Is
Yeah.
the diversity of our blemishes. But I saw a girl in clinic the other day who was in a car accident. She had some little scars, and one scar, this was from a few years ago, left her with this dent here. And when she smiled, it was like a big indentation. It looked like a huge dimple.
Mm.
And I thought it looked really cool. And I told her, can you fix this? I said, you know how many patients actually pay me to make dents in their cheek because they want dimples?
Wow.
And she's got a nice, natural looking dimple that happened from an accident.
Yeah.
And I think she never thought about it. Like, you mean people want that? So it's just perspective. Yeah. So, but it looks like it's doing okay. I don't think you'll need any work on that.
Yeah. I was the main thing I was concerned about was the coloration. I didn't know if it had gone too deep to where
it stays light.
Right. And that was my concern. But so many things have been happening to me lately to where it's like even when we encounter these blemishes, or the accidents,
Mhm.
we're still blessed.
Mhm.
We're still blessed. Even when we suffer, we're still blessed because it could be so much worse.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes us enduring these blemishes to realize that we were blessed. Um,
It'll remind you to keep your head up.
Yeah.
Literally.
Right. It's just how you choose to look at life. And so I'm working every day to maintain a positive perspective. Because I'll say this, every problem that we have, I'm a firm believer in this, every problem that we have is attached to a blessing. You can take as long as you need, think about whatever it is that's got you stressed out or, up at night or really worrying, and I guarantee you it's attached to a blessing
Mhm.
So I think it's very important that we focus on the blessing, and then our problems won't be so major.
That's well put. I like that. Cupid Shuffle. What's that?
Yes, this is we had our inaugural Valentine's Day event this year. It's the Cupid Shuffle Valentine's Day experience. Working with Mr. Boyd, Chef Smoke Boyd over at the Flame.
Oh yeah, smoke.
And so we've had this. It's a whole production. We got a full band, the horn section, all. You come, put on your nice clothes.
Is that the Flame?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Black tie event, dinner, live entertainment. We raffle off prizes. We have sponsors. Renova Spa and Wellness Center is one of those sponsors. So we get very nice giveaways that you all can really enjoy. And so I'm just promoting it for next year, February 10th, 2024. It's going to be an awesome time. I'll be frank, I'm not one to talk about people, so I'm not calling anybody specifically, but I've seen a few events, that are of that nature, but I don't think anybody comes close to what we provide at this Cupid Shuffle Valentine's Day experience. With the photographer, you get your pictures taken. The dinner is the Flame, so it's some of the best food around.
Right.
You got Joe Brown in the band, music for the people, so you're not going to get much better with the music department. And so I just
Well,
really
I'm going to check you
people
guys out.
should really
My wife
check
will like
us out.
that. February
Absolutely.
4th. It's on Valentine's Day?
No, like this year, Valentine's Day was on a Tuesday, so we did it the Saturday night before.
Gotcha.
Simply because, some people have to get up and go to work Wednesday morning, and then, babysitters and all of that kind of stuff. So for the consumer, I think it was better for us to do it on that Saturday instead. That's the same approach that we're going to take next year. So it's going to be February 10th, a little bit ahead of Valentine's. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's just an attempt to kind of take a little work off the fellas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every year it's hard to kind of outdo yourself. So, bring your lady down. The interesting thing is it's not just for couples.
Mhm.
It's for singles too. So we're going to lighten the load for you fellas who work hard every year to try to impress your ladies, bring them down, let them listen to music for the people. But if you're single, this is also an opportunity for you to come and find a Valentine.
Nice.
So we're a couple of days before Valentine's Day. So by the time Valentine's Day arrives, you might have somebody to have gifts and flowers and chocolates and those sweet types of things for. So,
and hopefully we can get you back to the Health and Wellness Fair this year.
Yeah.
So first Saturday of November, I think is what it's going to be every time. And hopefully it'll keep growing bigger and bigger. And that's open to the whole community. It's not a Xanis or New Bern Aesthetic Center event. I mean, we host it, but it's a New Bern event for anyone to learn about everything related to health, wellness, beauty, fitness. So hopefully we can get you guys there. Maybe you can bring the whole band this year.
That'd be fun.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really fun.
So, and for all of our viewers out here who are listening to you and want to find out more about Soul Man and your group, tell us where they can find you online.
You can find us on any of your favorite social media platforms at Joe Brown Band. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, at Joe Brown Band. You can visit our website, www.joebrownband.com, or shoot us an email at joebrownband@gmail.com.
Sounds good, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Nice talk. Absolutely. Anytime.